Hello, good time of day.
Hello.
I can't remember what part of the world are you living in.
Near Detroit in Michigan, USA.
So it's like beginning of the afternoon for you.
Yeah, about 2 in the afternoon. So where are you at?
I'm in Paris, France. So it's the beginning of the evening. It's 8 p.m.
Okay.
It's quite the evening, but it's the beginning of the evening for me because I'm a late bird.
That'd probably be true for me as well. Um, we're up pretty late here. So, but I'm glad we can get together here today. This will be good to keep this moving.
Yep. Let me ping Benji. I think he's on the agenda, but hello. Thursday is working group day, I think. There is before this one there was composite working group, or was it open telemetry? And before that it was composite working group. So it's 3 working groups in a row. And here he is. HTTP. Hello.
Hello, folks. Sorry, I'm a little bit late. I
No,
was at another working group.
yeah, we were wondering what number of working group is it for you? Like which is it? I think there were like at least 3 today.
Yeah, there were. I didn't go to the composite schemas one,
Hmm.
but yes.
It's good to have such activity. Do we want to do the usual stuff with introductions and everything, even if it's the 3 of us, like for the internet maybe?
Yeah, we do it for the YouTube. Um,
All
I'll
right.
kick us off if that's cool. Yeah, okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the April HTTP over HTTP. That would be good, wouldn't it? Yeah, GraphQL over HTTP working group. We are here. We have agreed to the membership agreement, the participation and contribution guidelines, and the code of conduct. And we are aware that this meeting is published to YouTube. And we are also now using Zoom's large language model to summarize these meetings for us. So those will be filed alongside the human taken notes, so we can compare the quality of both. Wonderful. It would be great, speaking of, to have a volunteer for taking notes. Since it's just the 3 of us, I suggest that we all try our best to try and take notes whilst we ourselves are not talking. But I imagine that's going to be quite challenging. Let's start with a quick introduction of attendees. I'll start with myself. Hello, everyone. My name is Benji from GraphQL.
Hello everyone, Martin from Apollo.
Hello, this is Shane Kruger. I'm a maintainer at GraphQL.net.
Fantastic. So on the agenda today, we have review the agenda items and then talking about the watershed removal and next steps. There is another topic which I haven't added to the agenda, which I would like to add, which is discussion of a partial success response code. So we'll add that as an ad hoc issue to the agenda. Is there anything else that anyone would like to add to the agenda for today?
All good.
Perfect. In which case, we'll just have a very quick look to see if there are any action items. There are no ready to review action items, so that's a good start. Let me see what there are in the way of action items in general. Add notes about security to the GraphQL over HTTP spec. It's a long day. Apparently, it's very late for me. Yes, okay, good. So I think we're going to be discussing that anyway. So we'll move straight on to watershed removal and next steps. Who would like to lead this discussion? I guess I open the pull
Didn't.
request.
Oh, yes, go for it. Oh, yeah, I think I added this, but you
Go
have
for
more
it.
context, so
No,
go for it.
please.
Just I think we should merge it. Yeah, so it's pull request 330, which mentions January 2025, and it's now April, and we haven't had a working group in 3 months. So it would look much better and much simpler without the watershed. So I just want us to merge that.
Okay, yeah. So in the background, just to catch you up with some other things, at the GraphQL Foundation board meetings, I've been trying to get people to give us stats on who's using this new header and such like. What I can tell from the general, and I've not really received much about that yet. So I'm still waiting for people to hopefully update me on it. But what I can tell from the community in general is that we still have this common refrain of GraphQL basically only uses the 200 status code. So I can say that though this may be supported in some of the major servers, it's still, I think, broadly unknown to many, many people. And as such, I do think that we should, if we were to keep the watershed, it should be in the future, well in the future. So I think, yeah, removing the watershed is probably the right approach. The main reason this is a draft is because I just did some quick edits and I haven't actually gone through and made sure that the resulting thing is consistent. I think you have though, Martin, right? So you're fairly confident in it?
You know how it is, famous last words. I've spent some time reading it. It was a long time ago, so and this actually goes to my point of we are not moving fast enough on this specification, I think, because like diving in the context every 2 months is a lot of gathering everything that was said, and it's really hard to keep the ball rolling. So I think we should just go and see what happens. I mean, it's not a spec yet. Like even if we were to merge this, it's basically something that can help us converge towards something. And if someone is really unhappy about it, we will get the feedback. So I say we should just merge it.
Okay. Shane, did you have any feedback or you happy to go along with that?
I would agree with that.
Okay, perfect. So I propose that the course of action here is that we effectively indicate our intent in this pull request and we say, as discussed at the working group, we will merge this in 1 month's time. That gives people 1 month to really kick up a fuss if they want to. Otherwise, in 1 month, we'll merge it and it'll be done.
Even 1 month, I'm going to be a bit pushy here, but even 1 month is like how much time did people have to look at this? Like, let me see. You opened it in
Actually, yeah,
February.
scratch that. We've got Shane approves, we've got Dennis approves, we've got Martin approves. I obviously approve because I wrote the thing. And there doesn't seem to be in this specific pull request any major kickback. There was, if I recall correctly, like an alternative. Oh, this is because it came out of my issue that was to bump the watershed to 2030. So there was a fair amount of pushback on bumping the watershed. but I don't think there was a huge amount of pushback on actually just removing it. So yeah, okay. All right, well, in which case, I'll add it to my to-do list for next Thursday, and I'll go through and I'll read it and make sure that it is actually consistent. And then next Thursday, I'll aim to merge this. How's that sound?
Perfect.
Sounds good.
All right, I'll do that first. I'll add it to my to-do list right now, otherwise it won't get added. And then we'll move on. Cool. So next topic is a partial response status code. Before this spec goes full and before the new content type gets really fully arranged, I think one of the most common complaints about GraphQL is obviously the 200 for everything. But even with our new response codes, we allow you to do non-200 on request error, so when the entire request fails, but we don't, I think we still use 200 on partial success. Now, partial success is that, it is success, so it should definitely be a 2XX status code. But I think it would make sense for us to introduce a non-200 status code to use for this. And that would allow tooling to notice that an error has happened, even though the entire request itself has continued to succeed and it's been able to be processed by the GraphQL client that's just checked to see if it's, okay status. So I did a bit of research on this a while back, and unfortunately, because I've not added it to today's agenda, I haven't reminded myself what that was. But essentially, there isn't a standard HTTP status code that is suitable for this. There are things like the WebDAV. Let me remind myself, HTTP status codes. WebDAV have a 200 status code for multi-status. We also have the 206 partial content, but that's very much not suitable for this. So the 206 partial content is for when you are using a byte range and you're asking for just that range of data to be responded. So we definitely can't overload that status code for this purpose. I think we probably shouldn't overload the WebDAV one either. So I suggest that we do what various other things have done in the past and just like basically make our own status code, a non-standard one, up in the 90s, like 294, something like that. I think 294 actually might be the one that I proposed, but I don't remember. Have I written a thing about this partial status code? I can't find it. Anyway, my question is this. Do you agree that we should have a partial status code to indicate that though the request is successful, an error did occur?
I guess the question is whether we need a must or a should. Like currently, people can do it, right? Like if they want to, I think the specs say it doesn't mandate 200, or does it?
Yeah, I think you're right. At the moment, it's recommended. And I think the reason for that is specifically because I was intending to introduce this later and I just hadn't got around to it. Oh, in fact, I do write about it in a note in the spec itself. 24/7 I chose at the time for some reason. Yeah, if the GraphQL response contains a data entry and it is null, then the server should reply with a 2XX status code, and it is recommended it replies with a 200.
Yes.
But what about if it's not null? and it is not null, then it must reply with a 2xx, and it should reply with a 200. So yeah, I'm essentially saying that we should introduce a new one that effectively says if it has data, if the data key exists and errors exist, then you should use specifically 294 or 247 or whatever status code we land on.
My comment is, it seems like this would be useful probably for logging. I'm not really sure that it would be useful for very many other purposes. I mean, just seems like it could be very useful for logging, and I'm sort of indifferent as to whether or not, as to any status code in the 200 range, if we want to define one for that. I can't really see it being really useful for the clients, though, just that they're generally just going to say ensures success status code if they do anything or something of that nature. And then they know it's already a valid JSON response. They can parse it and view the data however they want.
Yeah, status codes aren't actually useful to our clients in general. Like, so long as you're using the new response types, the new content types, sorry, media types, then you should be able to infer everything by just looking at data and errors in the response. You shouldn't need to even look at the HTTP status code at all, unless the response content type is not the application GraphQL response plus JSON. So yeah, it's entirely for, like you say, logging. It's also for proxies, any other intermediary servers, any intrusion detection systems, anything that wants to detect that errors are happening at a higher rate, like stats monitoring stuff, so that you can spot that your latest deploy has gone wrong or something like that. But yeah, for the client at all, no status code really matters. But for those other toolings, having a standard status code for that, I think would be really, really beneficial. And I am wondering whether we should consider making it a must as well. And if we were to do so, is now the time to do it? Are we too late because already lots of people are already implementing this? Do we add a new watershed? What should we do there?
I like the idea. I'd be fine with must as well, because it's still a draft protocol. And as we just mentioned, it really should not affect any clients whatsoever if you were not to provide it. That being said, I don't know that we need to say must, but it would definitely help long-term for tooling and so on. And if we were to do that, I don't know if there's any way to standardize that code, or if that's needed, or just pick one out of a hat. I don't know if that really applies. Or is there any way that anyone else has, is there a list of status codes that are commonly used that we can make sure we're not conflicting with anything else? But it would be really good to have a unified status code for future tooling.
Agreed. So I think technically we're not meant to come up with our own status codes. That said, people do. Like, there are quite a few that have been made up by various providers, like 420, for example, was, I think, Twitter's Enhance Your Calm. There was a whole bunch of other ones like that that are non-standard. And I think putting them up in the high, like in the 90s, automatically implies that they're not part of the HTTP standard, because that doesn't tend to be used. So I think we could do it, basically. To your other point, I think you're absolutely right. I was trying to think of a reason why it should be must, why it must be must. And I don't think it does need to be must. essentially it's for your own backend tooling, right? You produce the server and it's for your proxies, it's for your logging systems, it's for your statistics and everything like that that you use. So if you choose to not do it, that's fine. That's your problem. As we've already discussed, it doesn't provide any real value to the client, so it doesn't really matter from that point of view. So yeah, let's add it as a should, in which case we can just add it now without having to worry about breaking anything. Perfect. All right. Well, I'll also add that to my list of to-dos, though that one probably won't be done on Thursday. It'll probably be a different Thursday.
If we're saying this is for our own backend, like it's for the implementer's backend, and the clients do not really care, why do we even mandate 2xx for success? Like we could just have a spec that says, it's just me being curious, but we could just say, hey, as long as you have this content type, use whatever HTTP status code that you want. This would be the simplest specification ever. I just give full flexibility to everyone. But we didn't. Like we mandate 2xx if there is a data entry. And I was curious what was the reason for that.
So the reason's quite straightforward, really, which is that it's very common for clients, for example, fetch-based clients, to just throw out a request if it doesn't have a 200 status code.
Yeah.
So we do it for client compatibility because the client doesn't care about the status code, so long as it's a 2xx.
Yeah, it doesn't care in theory, but in practice, it's a bit of a tradition. And I have to admit, I am guilty of doing it. So yeah.
The other key reason as well is for interoperability. One of the main reasons for introducing this part of the spec is to enable the other status codes which are there for other tooling. And so as much as possible, we want to use standard patterns here. So we want to, for example, give a 400 if the request is invalid, right? Because we want to indicate this is an issue that the client has caused, and we couldn't execute it because of a client error, versus a 500 saying, sorry, we can't execute it because the server's having some unknown issue, or 503, the server is not available right now. It can still respond in GraphQL, but it can't actually execute the GraphQL. So 503. And that way, all of the different services that would be logging that and would be exposing that like any REST API would do, you can use the same tooling that you would for your REST API with your GraphQL API. And we want to enable that as much as possible. And I think for this partial success as well, this is a thing that doesn't exist in like the REST world, right? We don't have partial success over there. So it is a new thing that justifies a new status code, but we want everyone ideally to implement it in the same way. And that way you can use any number of proxies or logging systems or data application performance monitors. Any of these things should be able to support that same status code and know what that means. So we definitely should recommend that you use this specific one and that you use it in these cases.
Yeah,
I think.
Sounds like we should even mandate that you use this specific one. So I'm team must after what we just said.
But again, this is for your tooling. So
yeah.
Yeah, I do like the way where this is headed. I mean, the entire spec that we've been developing, it's part of it is one of the goals it's solving is to help enhance logging, like using persisted operations and having the document identifier on the URL enhances logging. And this goes along with that goal. And so I don't know if I'd mandate it just because the official IANA spec for the protocols doesn't list 294 or whatever. So I might make it a recommend until if and when you can ever get that added to the list. But that's the only real reason I'd be, if we wanted to do must, that'd be okay too, but I think it would be very valuable and assist in the bigger picture here of enhancing logging and tracking and those type of operations for the spec.
Okay, great. I think that's all from me. But for me, like there's that needs to be done, and also we need to merge in. Did we actually merge in already the security pull request?
No, security is the other big topic, I think. But it's slow moving these days.
I
Number
think it's been
303.
done. I just haven't got around to reviewing it yet. That's the main issue. Yes, that's the one. 303. Yeah, so I haven't got around to reading that yet. I'm going to also add that to next Thursday's list of things to do. Let's get closer.
Yeah, I don't think there's any outstanding questions on that. We've got a couple people have reviewed it already, and so if you notice any outstanding questions on that, then let's refresh those. But
Sounds
Perfect.
good.
Yeah, it looks like Martin's already approved. Yogi's approved. So this is very promising. So I'll go through on next Thursday. I'll go through. I'll have a read of it, and assuming that all is good, I'll go ahead and merge that as well. So we'll get both of those merged, and I'll also raise a pull request about the partial success, and then I think we're in a really good place, ready to move forward. Hopefully. If anyone fancies doing some triage on the other open pull requests and issues, that would probably be valuable as well.
How do we aim for a coupled release with the spec release in July? Like, that would be cool.
Yeah, we could probably do that. We've got the extensions. Oh yeah, the extensions property is now actually defined in the GraphQL spec, so we should update. I'll add that to my list as well. Link to extensions in the GraphQL spec. I think that only actually got merged into the GraphQL spec quite recently. So that's good. We can link to that now rather than having to detail it ourselves. Cool. Okay. Is there anything else anyone would like to discuss? No. All right. Fantastic.
Excited that it moves. Yep. Let's get it out.
Indeed. Let's do that. All right. Thanks, everyone. Well, I'll see you maybe in a month to push this forward some more.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming. Bye.
Thanks, Benji. Thanks, Shane. Have a good day.